Welcome to Seriously Uncork Yourself. I am your host, Lynn Kuhn, and this is a podcast that brings to you a firsthand look at what it seriously means to meet people where they are in their life. Enjoy the experience from illusions to reality. Find out what it is to restore to high performance, renew your freedoms, and rejuvenate playfulness. I can't wait to share with you my experience and the experiences of many others in hopes that you feel inspired to renew yourself and live your best life. Thanks for listening. Now let's get started. Welcome. Today, I am just so very excited and honored to have as my special guest, Haili Murch. And she's here with me on my very brand new podcast, Seriously Uncork Yourself. And I'm really appreciate you coming on today and taking the time out of your very busy schedule. So hi, how you doing?
Hi, good. And thank you for having me. I'm absolutely honored. As it'll probably come up, I helped Lynn get this podcast started. So
Yes.
I wanted to join the fun. So thank you.
Absolutely. And thank goodness I found you. And it was amazing working with you. With having children, and I'm going to talk about a little bit about who Haili is. But before I do that, just us working together, it was quite the experience because I always, for myself, I'm learning every single day as far as doing technology. And she was just awesome. She helped me with every step of the way. If I had questions, she was right there and answered them. And it was just so helpful and got through the process. And actually, I didn't realize there was that much involved in doing a podcast. And there really is. There really is
it's way more involved than people realize. They think it's just stick the microphone and record. It's a lot more behind that. So
it is. But it's been such a joyful experience. And I love doing them and meeting new people all the time. And so I'm just really excited that you are here. And just a little bit about Haili, and then I'm going to let her tell a little bit about herself too, is, of course, she is the podcast host of her group is called This is Legit Motherhood. And her podcast is all about real and raw things of motherhood and is a place for mom to not feel alone in their motherhood journey. Did you hear that? Everybody gets to hear that. I did not know it was even supposed to rain. Did you see that?
I just saw the lightning behind you in your window.
Is that crazy?
That was crazy.
I had no idea. And there goes my puppy too. She's going to come by me because she's not going to like it. That was a
big one.
They're bowling up there and having, we used to say when we were kids. Anyway, so she does have this, it's called, the podcast that she does is called This is Legit Motherhood. And along with her podcast, she started the Legit Motherhood Community Facebook group, which is a place for moms to interact and support with one another in their motherhood journey. She is also, as we were talking a little bit earlier, she is a podcast manager and helps other moms run their podcasts, which is so cool. I'm so glad that I got to meet her. And she is married and a mom of 2 boys, and she loves to travel, write songs, and try new foods. And how much more do I love you? I love food. And I'm always wanting to try something new. My husband, he's the type, like if we go out to eat somewhere, I'm there. And I'll ask the waitress, like, oh, well, what do you like? He goes, why do you do that? And it's like, because I don't try something new all the time, right?
Yeah, I like that.
So would you tell our audience just a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a pretty summed up version. But yeah, I've been doing podcast management for a couple years now. And I first started kind of as a general VA, and I was doing a lot of just any online work I could get for entrepreneurs. So I did a lot of email marketing and Pinterest and YouTube videos, and I kind of dabbled in a lot of it. But ironically, a lot of those clients also were podcasters. So what it turned into was I was taking on a lot of podcast clients who also had me do other things and kind of noticed the things that I liked to do and didn't like to do, and kind of fell into the editing and managing the podcast side of it versus the other side of their business, and decided to only take podcast managing clients. And then this last year, I offered a podcast power launch package, which Lynn took, and it's to help people launch their podcast in 4 weeks. And 2020 has been my most successful year with my business, ironically. And partly due to that offering, a lot of people have launch podcasts because they've been stuck at home and it's something they can do. And so that's been really fun. And along with that, I have my own podcast. After working with so many awesome people, I was like, well, can I do this? And so I decided that I had this idea. This is Legit Motherhood. I wanted to just have a space to talk about things that I felt like I got not gypped on, but wished I would have known more about before entering motherhood. And even being a mom now, like there are some things that we just are shy to talk about, or we're scared to be open about it. And I just wanted to be legit. I wanted people to get on, and I just wanted to talk about all the things. So that's what we do on the podcast. And then the Facebook group is a little more interactive. So we do kind of some fun activities and giveaways and get to know each other so that moms kind of have a place to meet other people and to just have a safe place to let things out if they need to. So that's what we do. So
and I think that's absolutely wonderful, because I know with raising my husband and I, we have the 6 daughters, like we were talking a little bit ago about, and we're expecting our 11th grandchild coming in January.
That's so cool.
And I think back, I know it is. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot different being a grandmom than being a mom. But I always thought when I was a mom, it's like, we don't have a playbook, you know what I mean? It's so nice that you put together this community that people can get together and moms can talk, because there are so many questions. And I mean, I believe that some of us have moms, some don't, some of us have sisters or just good friends. But when you have a community and you can talk about it with all different kinds of people, you get all these different, I'm imagining, because I haven't gotten to go on there yet. I'm going to have to do this. All these different ideas that help, because we don't have a playbook when you're raising kids. And so sometimes when you do things, after you do them, you think, why did I do that? And sometimes after you do things, you go, man, I'm glad I thought about that. That really worked out well. Yeah. And sometimes things just don't, right? And so I think that's really a wonderful community to have. And this episode is going to be called How to Let Go of Mom Guilt. And I'm going to let Haili take away a little bit on this and let you guys know how she feels about this, because I'm very interested in this myself. So go ahead.
This is you kind of start having the few topics that you really get passionate about and you like to talk about. And this would be one of them for me. I think that if we're sitting here talking about being a mom, I think, I have landed in the generation of there's so many things out there that you can do as a mom and a woman, but also just as a parent. And then there's a lot of things out there telling you what you're doing wrong and right all the time. And so it's kind of this constant bombarding of information. And I think sometimes it can make you feel guilty, like, oh, I'm not feeding my kids enough vegetables, or I'm not meeting this requirement that they say I should be meeting. And I don't keep my kids off the screen this many hours a day, and all these things that kind of start making you feel like you're not doing anything good at all. And I feel like that's so terrible, because as a parent, we take on so much, and there's so much we're doing right, and we're not giving ourselves any credit for that. For the things we're doing right, we're focusing on the things we're doing wrong. I think that in general, that's human nature. For some reason, we tend to find the things we're doing wrong instead of cheering ourselves on for what we are doing right. And so, although I am not perfect, and I'll give you guys just a few quick examples, but I feel like I've gotten a lot better at this the last couple of years. I've just decided to let some things go. And that's not to say that my house is a total wreck and my kids eat gummy bears all the time, but that is to say that, I'm letting things loose a little bit. I'm trying not to be so caught up in the few rule books that are out there. I mean, you are talking about there is no playbook, but there's a lot out there telling you how you should do stuff. And I feel like it's okay to use your parent gut and use your parent intuition to be like, you know what, this is what works for me and my family and my child. And people can't tell me how to do that. They don't live in my house every day. They don't know what it's like. So you have to figure it out. But So I just wanted to give you guys 5 quick good thoughts you could give instead of feeling guilty, instead of damaging yourself. These are 5 things you could tell yourself instead. So 1 is you are doing enough. I think I'm trying to think how to say this. I think this is where I tend to feel some guilt because I feel like I could always be doing something more or better. And I know that that's true, but I think, like I mentioned before, we just have to give ourselves a break. When we're trying something new, 2020 is giving us all the curveballs. Like, you're doing enough right now. Like, seriously, you're doing enough with what's going on. I can tell you that. Number 2 is that you are a great mom. I have entered the 6-year-old stage where I've been told many times that I don't like you, mom, and you're not a good mom. And I have to take that very lightly because I know I am a good mom, but I have my moments where I'm not. And he has moments where he just doesn't like what I say. So that's okay. But you have to tell yourself you're a good mom. And that's something that you have to believe too. 3, that you are the best mom for your kids. And that's why I mentioned before that you can't feel guilty about how you should do it a certain way. I know that, I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old, and when they're very much in an early stage of developing. And so there's a lot of things or requirements they should be meeting by certain ages. And although it's important to keep up with that, because if they get behind, you want to make sure that you're helping them learn and be where they need to be. But and other things, I'll give an example, potty training, like I learned after the first time how awful it was and I hated it, that I was like, you know what? The book says they got to learn it by 2. Well, my kid's going to do it when he's ready to do it. And so both my boys have trained around 3.5, and it's gone a lot smoother that way. And that's just because that worked for me and my family. And I have a brother with girls, and they potty train way quicker. And I don't know if that's a boy-girl thing. I've heard that it is, but sometimes it's just different, and you just got to give yourself that grace. Don't think, oh, my 2-year-old's just not there yet. It's okay. Like, just, it's okay. And you know what's best. Like, you will know what's best. And then the last 2 are, you don't have to be perfect. That's a little bit of an obvious one. We're in life, we are not reaching a destination of perfection. We are just striving to be better along the journey as long as we can. So it's not this destination of perfection. So don't think your house has to be clean all the time. Don't think your kids have to have matching clothes all the time. Like, I don't know what else I can throw in there, but just like, it's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then the last one is you can't do it all. So, I know that sometimes as a mom that wants to be involved, you want to maybe be a part of the school thing. You want to be part of the church thing. You want to be the Instagram mom. You want to be the Pinterest fun mom and do all the crafts. And sometimes when you put that pressure on yourself, it can make you're making yourself feel guilty for no reason. Like, just do what works for you. Find those things that you enjoy. I'm not saying that any of those things are bad. Like, do the things that you want to do, make time for them, but don't feel like you have to checklist all of them, because that's what all the moms are doing. Like, it's okay. So those are just kind of 5 thoughts that I wanted to share, because I'm really passionate about that. Everybody's going to do it the way that they need to do it. And I have been so much better at not judging people since having kids, because I'm at a grocery store and I see, kids having a tantrum or mom struggling. And in my head, I'm just going, I feel you. Like, there's nothing anymore that, when you're single or different stage of life, you're like, oh man, that family over there in the grocery store. Now I'm just like, oh man, bless them. Like, because I have no idea what they're going through, right? I have no idea their story. And so it's not my place. We all need to give ourselves that grace too. So not just everyone around us, but ourselves. And so there is my passion of the mom guilt for you.
Oh, I just love it. And everyone you said, I thought back, and it's so true, because with me, you learn as you go, and it seems like, and you do, because you don't know, and they're all so different. And like my first 2 girls, when I had them, one was born with blonde, one was born with a brown curly hair, the other one was poker. And their personalities were opposite totem poles, just opposite. So what I could do for one, oh my God, if I did it with the other one, they'd be having like, oh no. And then when you were talking about the potty training, and that's another thing too. Now I had all girls. So the first one, I looked like Santa Claus, literally. I would bring the potty chair with me everywhere I went to catch her when she went. So, I thought she had to be trained by, I think at that time it was like 18 months. It was something crazy.
Oh,
like
no, I'm so sorry. Yeah, why did they do that?
Myself. I didn't train her, right? And then with the second one, it got, longer and longer and longer because, you start putting more children into the mix. You don't have that much time. And you know what? And it all works out. It does. Yeah. It all ends up working out. And so I love what you said with all the different stages. And the other one I was laughing to a lot is because the last, not this year, of course, but the last couple of years, I traveled quite a bit because I gone to a lot of seminars and a lot of trainings to get my coaching degree and to recertify and learn, right? And so I remember getting on the airplanes and, you get on the airplanes and there's just some, most of the time, no, though. Most of the kids are always good on airplanes and, and thank goodness for their parents, because I think it's the parents that get more concerned about them acting up. But I learned to do? Bring some earplugs.
Yeah.
How hard is it? Because you can't control a child if they're going to, cry on an airplane because they're going up in that altitude and stuff like that.
I know. Yeah.
So, there's things that we can do too to make, the life a little bit easier. But as far as children go, even academically, they're all different. One would excel in this, the other one, and sports wise, one would be, such a great, volleyball player. And then the other one, didn't want to even play volleyball, so they sort of all have to learn their own little places of where they're supposed to be. And as a parent, it's never ending. It's always, you're always, learning and growing with them and learning to go ahead and pivot. We have to learn to pivot as parents, and we can't.
I like that.
We really can't be that perfect parent because you're no fun then if you are. I don't care.
That's a good way to say it. Yeah.
You just make life so serious. And the one thing that I will say that I just want to add in, and then I'll let you go ahead and talk a little bit more about different things if you like, is I learned with the kids that you're talking about, if your house isn't perfect and stuff. And I always thought, because my mom was like that, she always made sure everything was just so. And, and when you grow up and you see that, you put those expectations on yourself, right? Sure. And so I always thought things had to be that way too. But the most important thing that I learned with raising the girls, and they're all adult children now, and they're, I said earlier, they're all having their own families. And even now to this day is to be present when you're with the kids. Take that time because you're never going to get that time back, and so that's one of the things that I have learned over all my ancient years here is just to really try to be present with each child, and they will take more out of you listening to them, I've learned, than if we do everything for them type of, what I mean? It's take that time in that present moment and don't beat yourself up because you know what? We all make mistakes. That's how we all learn. And I just love what you just said. So is there anything else, Haili, that you'd like to go ahead and add to what you're just talking about?
I guess the last thing I would just say about mom guilt is to recognize that guilt in general, whether it's with your parenting or not, it doesn't do anything for you except, and I say this big time, except in those humble moments where you need it. Every once in a while, I feel like guilt does something that helps you reevaluate yourself. And I think that that's okay. But living in guilt and letting it affect you constantly because you're always not living up to some sort of expectation you have or what you think someone else has for you just doesn't make sense to me. It's kind of like what you're saying, like you can't fully be mom and be present when you're so worried about how all these things are supposed to be. And then you feel guilty because you're not meeting all those expectations. So like I said, I've just started to feel guilty less. That doesn't mean I don't ever feel it. That doesn't mean that I just give up and I don't try to be a better person. It just means that I'm human and I'm trying better to just let it go a little bit more so that I can enjoy those moments with my kids and I can just be a happier person. Because living in that guilt, like even saying it just kind of feels icky, and I don't want to feel like that all the time. So
yeah, and you absolutely don't want to do that. And I was thinking as we were talking here too, the other thing that I think a lot of people do, and I've done this myself, and I've done this in business too, and I learned this from one of the leaders that I've known for a few years, and we call it compare-itis. Have you ever heard of that?
I haven't heard of that way, but yeah.
Yeah, compare it's I think their own term, but it's so important because I know a lot of people do that. When you're busy and we're working, a lot of people like now are working from home, and even before other people that would have maybe a different job, and you think, oh, they have such a great job, they have such a great family, why can't I be like that? Why can't I be like them? And we really have to learn that, we don't know what they did to get where they're at. We're just comparing.
Oh yeah, I love that.
We end up comparing ourselves where we are, and we're thinking we need to be like them. And a lot of times that just gets us into a lot of trouble, and we really don't need to do that. And then we become, like you're talking earlier, then you start to be thinking to yourself that you're just not enough. You're not doing enough as a parent. You're not, and you're not doing enough as yourself, that you feel like you have these personal goals that you really need to do. And so I believe that everyone should just stay in their own zone as much as they can and do what's good for them, because what's good for your child, that child.
Yeah.
And you can't compare to somebody else on what they're doing, because your child's not going to react, and they're not that child's mom. You're the mom, and what's best for your little one, or your adult little one, because they never really do grow up, actually. They really don't. And they always do come home, no matter how mad they might be at you.
I hope so.
They come back home to mom. They just do. Because I know wait till you get to the teenage years.
The rumor is that boys are really wild as kids and then they tone down as teenagers. And I'm still hoping on that, because my boys are so wild, and I'm like hoping that they tame down a little bit. So we'll see.
Yeah. And this is true, though. It is, because I do believe that. Well, you know what? Actually, not all of them, though. So my oldest grandsons were always, when they were little, they're a little bit more wild. They're calm now. So yeah, I think you're
maybe
right.
Maybe it does.
Yeah. And my girls, they were a little bit more calmer when they were little compared to we have eight boys. Well, the eighth boy will be born in January. So we have 7 boys.
Out of your 11. Wow.
Yeah, 11. So yeah, the boys are winning.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah. And they're different. They are a little bit different than girls. I remember back in the day with the girls when they got to high school. The first year and a half of high school, I think for all of them, that was probably the hardest of all the years, because it seems like when they go into high school, they don't know what to expect. And so they put themselves in the same position I think we do, in a different way. They start comparing, and they want to be like this one or that one. And they're trying to fit in, because like my kids went to a smaller grade school, and then they went into a larger high school. And so they're just all trying to fit in. And so, yeah, that first 2 years there, they were a little trying.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. And, but it all seems to work out. And then after that, then when they get married, that's a whole nother ball game.
Oh yeah.
But I really enjoyed today. I think that we really, especially that you brought a lot to today, if people will just enjoy this episode and to learn on how not to feel that way, to feel guilty with what you're doing with the kids. And before we sign off here, I would like to say that we will have in the show notes how to get a hold of Haili, and you can get a hold of her on her Instagram. You can get a hold of her on her website, and also on the podcast. And I'll have all that written down in the show notes, so that you guys don't have to hurry up and go get your pens right now while you're listening. And this way you can get a hold of Haili. And is there anything else you'd like to say before we sign off?
Well, just thank you so much for having me on, and all of you out there who are listening. Thanks for listening to Lynn's podcast. She's doing a great job. These are really, really awesome topics that you're bringing on and going to bring on. And just wherever you're at, whether you're a mom or not a parent, wherever you're at, just let that guilt go today, whatever is holding you back, and don't let it hold you back. 2020 has taught us anything is we've got to just keep going, and we can't live. Absolutely, can't live in this guilt. That's for sure. So thank you so much for having me on.
And I want to thank you too for being on my podcast and bringing your specialties to our audience. This was just absolutely wonderful. And I enjoyed this little bit of time that we got to spend together. And we'll have to do this again. So thank you very much, Haili, for coming on. Remember, down below, you guys, to get a hold of Haili, just go ahead and look down below the podcast, and we'll have in the show notes on how to get a hold of her. And thank you so much. Good night.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning into the show. I hope this brought out your passions, ignited you, and inspired you to restart and reclaim your life. Please subscribe to my podcast and feel free to leave a rating and a review. Until the next episode of Seriously Uncork Yourself, you can check out more information at lynnkuhn.com. That's Lynn, Lynn, Kuhn, Kuhn.com. Be sure to tune in for my next episode. Sending you all peace and love until our next time together. Seriously Uncork Yourself.